Fake news is the enemy of all liberals. Saying things that there isn't evidence for, that aren't true, and sharing misinformation is the enemy of liberalism. Liberals have routinely talked about how conservatives were talking about the Stop the Steal movement and how that was a detriment to democracy because they were spreading misinformation. Liberals routinely hated on Donald Trump for telling fake news and for calling out real news as fake. The lesson is that liberals are not supposed to be spreading misinformation, and they should be calling out fake news. And I love that. But sometimes liberals spread propaganda and commit fake news and share misinformation and are just as bad as Donald Trump. Recently, a liberal and a liberal organization committed libel against me. They suggested that I had thoughts and feelings that there is no basis for at all and are completely untrue. Unfortunately, they're not the only ones to do this. This has happened a couple of times. Today's show is going to be about the state of American journalism. And what you're going to find out is they can literally say anything about you, and there's nothing you can do about it. I'll show you coming up next. Well, let's get right to it. I'll show you the evidence and we'll go from there. So this was the original article in the Hill magazine. Let me put a pause there. U.S. secession is a great idea for Russia by Rachel Kleinfeld. Rachel Kleinfeld, we'll scroll down to the bottom. Rachel Kleinfeld is a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace is a think tank, academic, super high-level think tank, and they should be checking their facts. Unfortunately, this time they did not. So this is the article here. U.S. secession is a great idea for Russia. Let me make sure that's showing. And Marjorie Taylor Greene talked about national divorce. There are some Southerners who support that. Scroll down, scroll down, scroll down. Here we go. What if Californians took their India-sized economy, the fifth biggest on the planet, to perfect their progressive dream of Scandinavia on the Pacific? In departing, they would take with them 38 Democratic U.S. representatives and 2 Democratic senators. This is an odd choice to champion among Democrats trying to add states to bolster their congressional chances. But it would be excellent for Republicans since it would likely condemn the remainder of Blue America to long-term GOP control. Perhaps it's no surprise that the 2016 California referendum, framed as a way for progressives to escape Trumpism, was run by 2 men who had been registered Republicans years before. Isn't it odd that the Calexit movement from liberal California would seek to remove California, therefore taking out 38 Democratic representatives and 2 Democratic senators? Odd choice for Democrats, perhaps because it would help Republicans in America. Perhaps it's no surprise that the guys who started Calexit were former Republicans. So what this is saying is that my motives for writing the Calexit book in 2012 and for getting this article in 2013, where I talked about how California could be independent. I was the first person to write an article about it and the first person to be covered in the news. I'm not actually doing this because I want California to be independent and I think we could do better on our own. My secret motivation is to hurt the Democratic Party and to ruin their chances of winning elections in the future because I'm a secret sleeper cell Republican. So that's what they said. Isn't it odd they would do this, former Republicans? So the message, not directly stated, but the message there is that my motivation for Calexit is to hurt the Democratic Party because secretly I'm still a Republican, and that's my independent ideological goal. So when I wrote the book in 2012, it was not because I felt that California had many policy differences and that we were already butting up against the federal government on things like stem cell, immigration, marijuana, international trade. It was an it was because I hate the Democratic Party and I want to ruin their chances nationally. So I'm part of a secret plot to ruin the Democratic Party. And that's my motivation for writing the book in 2012 and traveling to 40 cities and talking about how California was the most diverse place in the world and how we could have super progressive values. It wasn't because I believe in progressive values. It wasn't because I love California. It's because I'm a secret Republican plant who's here as part of a long-term plot to destroy democracy and ruin the Democratic Party's chances. That is total garbage. There's absolutely nothing that I've ever said to back that up, and there's no evidence for that at all. They are ascribing beliefs to me that I do not have, and there's no evidence for. But they're not the only ones. Frankly, this wasn't the only time this has happened. So a while back, there was an article by the Sacramento Bee editorial board. Despite Iran's enthusiasm, Californians have rejected Calexit. In this article, they extensively mention me and only me, slamming me and making it look like I'm working with Iranian terrorists. So let me show you the responses I got from the media. And then you can talk about how fair you think media representation is. Here's Clarissa Guerrero for the Carnegie Endowment. That's the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace.org. You mentioned me in an article on National Divorce Request for Correction. Dear Marcus, thank you for your inquiry regarding Rachel Kleinfeld's op-ed in The Hill, U.S. secession is a great idea for Russia. The Hill has declined our request to issue a clarification given everything was factually accurate. They declined to point out that what they said or suggested about you was completely wrong because in their opinion, it was completely factually accurate, although I have never made a statement or said anything or done anything or agreed to anything or published anything that would in any way suggest that I still like the Republican Party and I'm part of a Republican plant. I literally went on Laura Ingraham's show on Fox News and said I left the Republican Party because they're racist. I have also given the interview at least 25 times that I left the Republican Party around 2012, 2014, when Mitt Romney failed to continue to get the Latino vote. It was at that time I realized, given Mitt Romney had a background in Mexico and chose to not speak Spanish or talk to any Mexicans and did horrible with the Mexican vote, that the Republican Party was going to go racist and white supremacist and not be accepting of diversity. I made that decision 4 years before Donald Trump ever ran, thoroughly documented. But none of that matters. Everything they said about me as being part of a secret Republican plot to destroy the Democratic Party is factually accurate, and they will do nothing at all to issue a clarification. The year is 2023. That might seem bad, but let's take a look at this. Gil Duran, April 2020, SACB editorial board wrote about me, request to respond. We singled out the stupidity of the Iranians. You were barely mentioned. Submit a letter or be kindly on your way. So actually, I was not barely mentioned. They specifically singled me out. They did not interview me. And when I did submit a letter, they chose not to print it. There's the article, and they slam me and make it look like I'm down with Iranian terrorists. Hey, could I write something? Yeah, we didn't even talk about you. You were barely mentioned. Actually, you were the only person not in Iran mentioned. And yeah, we put a big giant target on your back. And yeah, we didn't even bother to interview you. And we suggested something that's not true. Go ahead and submit a letter or be on your way. I submitted a letter. They didn't even bother to print it. So you can absolutely, in the modern media, say whatever you want. You can say that I secretly love the Republican Party, and my whole plot to do this was not because I love California diversity, not because I was disgusted with the Republican Party turning against Latinos with Mitt Romney. It's because I secretly want to hurt the Democratic Party. You can also say that I love Iranian terrorism, even though there's no proof for that either. And then you can tell me to screw off and you're not going to change anything because the facts are the facts. This is the state of journalism today. They made statements about me that there was no evidence for. They didn't bother to talk to me. They didn't bother to interview me. And when I asked for clarification, they basically told me, kick rocks. So when I talk to people about how if you get going well in the Calexit movement, of course they're going to say you're violent. They can't allow this conversation to be out there, so they have to resort to character assassination. You literally saw 2 examples of that happening today. Let me show you again. Now, here's the person who wrote the article. Here's the article. And here is Rachel Kleinfeld at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. She outright suggested motives for me that there's nothing for, and couldn't even be bothered to interview me or respond to my concerns. I guess that's what you call quality journalism these days. Wanted to make sure to document it. This is the state of being a secession advocate here. When you do well, they'll just make shit up about you. And they won't interview, and they won't give you a chance to clarify it, and they'll just print it, and they'll have the audacity to say you're an idiot for even bothering them. That's America.